A New Hope, Nier Chapter 154 Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. Comically I popped my head around the corner of a doorway and my eyes took in the sight of Rennala all but spanking Ranni with her words, with the blue-skinned doll looking up at her mother with a grimace at the words slamming into her. Of all the things, little Ranni. Why a ragged doll though? You could have made a great golem or some other automaton that your soul could take control of. Rennala complained more than anything. Ranni visibly steadied herself before she snapped out. My own choices at the time were made in the heat of the moment. With my own impurine flesh discarded and destroyed by destined death, I didn't have much in the way of options, mother. Rennala brushed a hand down her face as she sighed, and both Ranni and Rennala looked at me silently as I walked into the room. And who is thine, companion mother? He is foreign to this world. Ranni spoke with her voice becoming colder at the end as she looked at me with suspicion. I gave Ranni a look before I confirmed bluntly. Yes, I am not from this world. But there is no need to look at me with suspicion or thought of evils in mind. As you, Ranni, already killed this world in bringing about the shattering, I have zero intention of taking over this world. The doll stilled before I felt a bit of mana stirring in her form, as I felt the lunar princess was rightfully furious about my words, but Rennala coughed and said delicately, although his words leave much to be desired. Your actions in purging the Two Fingers' influence in the world did bring about the shattering of the Elden Ring. Even though it was that bitch Marika's decision to break the Elden Ring in her madness. Actually, now that I thought about it, all of Elden Ring was the result of two MILFs in Rennala, and Marika not having a good leash on their children, or when they were lost, the mothers went fucking insane. Regardless though, I spoke out. In either case, Ranni, you have your mom to watch over your every move so you don't, I don't know, slam the moon into the world or something. Now I need to go snag some treasures and then heal your brother Radon before I deal with Morgoth and the other demigods that cannot be redeemed in any way. The Carian princess looked at me with her unblinking eyes, with that spirit half of her soul's face on the side under her huge witch hat, and she asked me curiously. And what does that have to do with me? Why point to me in this conversation? I looked behind me and called out. A2, come here please. The Yoarha, assault android, came into the room from outside, and Ranni's spirit face's eye widened as she looked at A2 with wonder as I said with a cunning smile. Because Ranni, although you have abandoned your Empyrean flesh, I can have a new body made that is indistinguishable from a human body so that your soul can take over it. A2 sent me a look and I just shrugged and said quietly as Rennala and Ranni began talking to one another, as Rennala formed a misty barrier to give themselves some privacy. We can have white, just make a template body without a Yoarha black box which holds the souls of your androids. Besides that, I need to kill more of the monsters and inhabitants of this land to get more runes. A2 made a noise of thought and then asked. Any idea where you can find a large amount of lifeforms then? But instead of myself answering, Ranni spoke up with the mist barrier going down. If thou are looking for evils to slay to acquire runes, then I suggest either the mutated ants' nests outside Nokron City and the cursed undead dragons of Caelid that can be more easily slain. Oh yeah. I forgot that huge dragon mother in Caelid who was utterly corrupted by the rot and literally can't even move. That dragon will give me a good 50,000 if not more runes. I nodded, and then it hit me as she mentioned Nokron City. I took a deep breath and with my aura, I called up all the memories I had of Nokron City from the game. With a wave of my hand I formed a portal that led into the sealed city, and Ranni gasped in wonder as through the portal leading into the odd underworld realm of Nokron, I pulled out what she desired most. The Fingers Layer blade was pulled out of the chest as I partly entered the portal, even as my aura quickly drained from my act, as opening a physical representation of closing the gap between great physical planes was always more tiring than closing more esoteric things. But I noticed that even without Jean helping me use my overly draining semblance, with the great runes pieces within my soul I was stronger, my soul was stronger, and thus I could use my semblance even more than before by a great amount. I wore a smug smile as my glove-covered hands swung around the creepy and cursed-looking finger-slaying blade, as Ranni, even as a fucking doll, had her doll's mouth open in utter shock as I did what she and Blade had wasted literal centuries in failing to do so in getting into the sealed city of Nokron. So Ranni, how about this, you teach me magic and I give you this creepy blade so you can kill the two fingers that have been following you. How about that? I asked, with Ranni's face twitching at the sight as her soul was so agitated that her control over her doll's body was being hyper-expressive. But either way, I will leave this with you, along with your mother, as a peace offering. We will be heading off now for a while though, I said, giving Rennala a look, who looked at me with pain in her eyes, but as her hand fell to Ranni's shoulder she steeled herself and nodded, meaning she would be fine without me acting as a mental anchor.